So, Wimpy, you were talking about video games. My friend, if you're going to get into games, guess what? New Humble Bundle 12 is out, and they are finally, once again, rocking the Linux support. And there's some good ones on here. There is Gone Home, good game. Luftrausers? How do you say that, Eric? What do you think?
Luftrausers.
Let's take a little look at this one. Let's see what this is about, because I think this is mild fantasy violence. All right. All right.
Oh, that was a fun game, actually. Yeah, I got really into that for a while.
Luftrausers?
Yeah. If it's when I think it is a side-scrolling...
oh, this actually looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a super game.
Okay.
Short,
all right.
Though.
So
it's actually a little short.
Oh, that's actually not a bad thing for me.
Is it like the airplane flying around in there?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Okay, so then you've also got Hammerwatch. Let's take a look at it. Okay, Hammerwatch is an overhead game. You got SteamWorld Dig. That I've heard a lot about this. I have that one. Papers, Please is also... And here's watch this one. This Papers, Please is a great game. Papers, Please.
It's like the whole game right there, too.
Well, that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting? Denied.
What's funny about this is I have worked in U.S. Customs facility in SeaTac Airport, and
Rikai says this would make a good mobile game. I can see that.
yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, so let's see. We got this is pretty good. All right, so should we check in to see how the funding is doing? You know, I always like to look at this, right? I always got to see how we're doing. Oh, all right, we got to watch the video. Come on, they've always got the crazy voiceover guy. Let's see what we get. Gunpoint. Where's the Hammerwatch?
Hottest indie
Here we go.
games on Windows, Mac, and Linux, DRM free and with Steam keys for one low price. Introducing Humble Indie Bundle 12.
Okay.
It's pay what you want, DRM free, cross-platform, and helps charity. Pay any price and get Gunpoint, making its Mac and Linux debut.
That's always cool.
If things go according to your stealth plan, the guns won't ever have to come out.
Cool.
The old switcheroo. Hammerwatch. Leaving dungeons unexplored? Not on my Hammerwatch.
Oh my god.
And SteamWorld Dig. I ain't saying he is SteamWorld Digger. Do you think in addition to SteamWorld Dig, there might also be a SteamWorld Reddit? Pay over the average price and also get Luftrausers.
Luftrausers.
Come fly the unfriendly skies.
That looks crazy.
You're the man now, dog fighter. Papers, please. Hey, what's the big ID here? I always remember to bring papers. Looks like a short drama called Lady and the Stamp and Gone Home.
Lady and the Stamp.
That's hilarious.
Should I rummage through these private documents?
Have you played this?
Well, you know
No.
what they say when in home. Pay $10 or more and get Prison Architect.
Oh, look how he did that.
Prison is what you make of it in this game that features architecture with conviction. Not adding it to your bundle would be a crime. As a special bonus, everyone who purchases this bundle for $65 or more will also receive an exclusive merch package.
That's new, right?
Brought to you by Fan Gamer.
That a floppy disk?
Plus, a customizable portion of each contribution will go towards the Child's Play charity and the Electronic Frontier Foundation. This promotion only lasts 2 weeks, so be sure to tell your friends. Like this video on YouTube, Facebook share it, tweet about it, and gobble up all our Google marbles like a hungry hippopotamus.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Oh my.
Have they ever done the swag thing before? So let's see. Okay, now let's take a look. A look at this. The top donator right now is a Bitly URL. You know, for $200, that's not a bad ad spot.
No.
That'd be actually, that's worth $200.
Oh yeah.
If you put a URL in there like that. So okay, here we go. Average Windows price $7.21. Average Macintosh price $8.84. Average Linux price, $9.
Represent.
69 cents. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's not yet chained down by the wrist to proprietary hardware. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Hey, Matt, guess what? 57 episodes in a row, buddy.
Big 5-7 already.
Now we're like ketchup. You know what? That's cool. It's cool to be like ketchup, Matt. And, to help us celebrate being tasty like ketchup, in studio, producer Eric. Hey, Eric.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Good. Are you feeling like Heinz 57 today?
A little ketchupy, a little vinegary. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You and I are on marathon broadcast mode still because we did that Apple thing this morning.
Yeah.
That'll be in Tech Talk today. It's probably going to be out, probably posted while we're recording.
Yeah.
It was like a 2-hour show. It was a big show.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was a big show.
Like encoding nightmare, said Rikai.
Yeah. it takes extra processors. You got to have more i7. We need more, all of the i7. Well, coming up in today's episode of the Unplugged show, we got a lot of ground to cover. We have a little make good from last week. We didn't get a chance to talk about DNF. We're going to do that in the latter half of the show. We also have, I know you're going to think it's crazy. You're going to think I'm nuts. We got to talk about Systemd just a little bit more because I think I figured out where all the controversy is coming from.
Yeah.
I think I've isolated it down. I think we can finally put this topic to bed once we just get it out there in the open. Who's stirring up trouble? Why they're stirring it up? I think I got the answer for you. We're going to talk about it in today's Unplugged. Call them out, put it on the record, so that way we as a public can move on from all of this shenanigans. So we're going to talk about that in the show. And then our Mumble Room joins us to talk about OpenMediaVault today. We're supposed to, at least. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
They've been doing a little OpenMediaVault review, and they've been preparing to come on and talk about their experiences with OpenMediaVault. So Mumble Room, time-appropriate greetings to you guys. Welcome to the Unplugged show today.
Hello.
Whiskey, yes.
Whiskey. Leave it as cookies.
Wimpy, are you ready to talk about OpenMediaVault today? Are you excited?
Oh, yeah, really.
Wow.
Someone hold that man down.
FreeNAS, everybody. So review over. FreeNAS.
No, not exactly the right person to be asking in case he gets overly excited about nothing.
That's true.
I didn't want to give away my true feelings too early on in the show.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's see. Let's start with our first email. See if we can get to the true feelings behind Tox. Travis wrote into Linux Unplugged. He says, "Hey guys, I saw a Wired article on a little piece of a little project called UTox, and I found it to be an interesting concept. Any plans for highlighting it during an upcoming show?" Now, you guys are probably familiar with Tox. It aims to be a Skype replacement that's secure, encrypted, and it's more like a protocol where a front end could be written for it. And Noah, you were just saying a little earlier you were experimenting with Tox. What was your takeaway?
Yeah, so me and actually a couple other people in the Mumble Room got Tox installed and started using it. And I want to say first, I think it's a fantastic. I think the potential for the project is fantastic, and I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think it's going fantastic directions. However, it's very much not ready for daily use, at least not from my experience. We were able to establish a call. We were able to have a conversation, and that worked really well. Unfortunately, to get that call, I had to have my client already open and waiting for the thing to pop up because the notification didn't work. That was in GNOME. I couldn't even get it installed. It wouldn't even install on 1404. Like I said, once it got connected, we were able to have a conversation, and that worked for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then the entire client would crash, and I would have to start all over again.
Yikes! In the middle of a call?
Yeah, right in the middle of a call.
Oh.
Group converse, like where more than one person was connected in a call, didn't work at all. Group chat worked okay, but the single one person to one person chat also would crash after 5 or 6 minutes of use.
Yikes.
So you're saying it sucked.
Well, here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's one of those things where I'm sure once everything reaches stable and it gets released, I'm sure it will be a fantastic project. It's clearly not where for example, Skype is today. Of course, it shouldn't be because how much longer and how much more money has Microsoft have to develop Skype.
Yep. It's early days still for Tox.
Doing it a little bit wrong here. Tox is more of a client, a server and a protocol. You're judging the client, one of many.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Fair enough. Although his experience sort of echoes the experience with the other Tox clients, I think the underlying aspect of it's still moving, and I think of course the top UIs. You're right. It's more like HTTP in a sense. You can have multiple web browsers that can browse the web. You can have multiple Tox front ends, but that might. I'm not. This maybe is going to be a data point to this potential, but I think maybe what we're seeing here is this is the wrong approach for this type of product and service. I think you need to have a client that is integrated at the same time with the back end. Like the two things shouldn't be developed in a vacuum. I don't think
that's absolutely correct.
It seems like you have to have when you build a feature into something that the back end can support, the client needs that,
Absolutely.
And you have to be able to then see how the client responds to that and adjust the back end to. How can these two separate things be fully feature compatible? How will they ever sync up in terms of what the back end can do versus what front ends can do, and etc.? It seems
you're absolutely right. In order to have the back end work, you have to have a front end that works with the back end. And if the two do not work together, then what's the point?
What do you think, Daredevil?
So they are actually, from what I understood, and I tried all the clients listed on the page, Toxic is the client that is being worked and doing that kind of iteration that you're talking about.
That's the one I like the most.
And that one never failed in doing any of the tasks that it already says it does. So it only doesn't do audio yet. However, it does already the other things really well. And I think it's on progress because they are trying to refine it step by step. Other clients are focusing on the experimental API that it's available for the Toxic library, to the actual protocol. And I think it is actually the right approach if we want these protocol to propagate. Like there's already people working that I have knowledge of that are working on a WebRTC proxy that goes with Tox. So you can use your browser to communicate with the Tox client, which is amazing.
But WebRTC already works fine, so why does it need to be integrated with Tox?
So you don't have to use two apps. So you have your browser, and people can use their own desktop application or phone application, which works.
We've also I featured a couple of Qt-based Tox clients, but
Qt seems to be the one that actually performs best under most circumstances and tests.
Yeah.
In my experience.
It's just, to me, so far away from a Hangouts or Skype replacement right now. It's just, it is not production ready, and there are people who start Google Hangouts and then leave them running all day long at their workplace.
It's got a long way to go before it's ever going to hit that level.
But maybe for enthusiasts that are just kind of messing around with friends and stuff like that, it's probably getting close to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Toxic.
But I do have to say, I didn't experiment any kind of crash at all. Maybe because I built all the clients on my distribution instead of actually installing.
That's good theory.
Yeah, I like that. Let's do a follow-up from Sven. He wrote in on the Linux Action Show on Sunday about setting up his home server, and my main concern was he was using like 3 different distros in his house, and he was using CentOS, but he was kind of a Linux noob, and I was a little worried that he might be spreading himself too thin. So Sven writes in with some follow-up. He says, "Hey guys, thanks for reading my question. I thought I'd get back to you on the questions you raised. So regarding the server OS, my reasons for choosing CentOS over CoreOS or OpenSUSE is primarily academic. I researched CoreOS extensively and would have opted for it, but what got me using CentOS was that I am, from time to time, called upon to manage Linux servers or a few at work, which is really stressful when you suck at it. Since all of our Linux servers and firewalls run CentOS, I decided it was in my best interest to become more versed in that OS. Once I'm comfortable with Cent, I'll probably move to Core. Yay, Docker. That's a great reason."
Yeah, that is a great reason.
It's an excellent reason.
Yep. So on the topic of using 3 different distros at home, and my concern there was like, well, if you're going to use CentOS, maybe you should just use CentOS. That way you just learn one thing. And so he says, you're probably right. And I feel the same about keeping things simple. But I think for the time being that my wife will need to acclimate to Linux in general. I need a distro that was both easy to use and visually attractive. An elementary OS represented the least dissonant experience for her as a first-time Linux user. My long-term goal is to empower her to choose her own distro, yes, and even command line if she wants, and while it would be nice to see her on OpenSUSE, I want her to learn a distro that she considers home. And then he says, "Shh, that way I can claim ignorance and won't have to answer questions." Regarding backups, so he says, "My current backup strategy is rudimentary at best. Since things are still in development, I'm using a series of Python scripts adapted from my old Windows server. They package things into BTSync folders. From there, it gets uploaded to SpiderOak. I need something simple that worked right away, so I haven't really given backups as much attention they deserve at this time. Any thoughts?" Oh, that's not bad. What do you do for backup, Eric?
Oh, well, what I do is I use just Deja Dupe, and I back up to a SSH server on my home server.
Deja Dupe's a great way to go.
Oh, yeah.
And in this case, you could back up to the folder that SpiderOak is backing up. I really like SpiderOak as my backup system.
Yeah, it's a good one. I have very little experience with SpiderOak, to be honest.
Yeah. Matt, what are you playing with anything backup-wise these days?
Well, I used to use SpiderOak, but it was so bloaty.
It is slow.
It was just kind of like,
oh yeah,
I do feel like the UI is
maybe
really
that's why I didn't use it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's really bloaty. So I've been kind of bouncing back and forth. At one time, I used to use Jungle Disk. One time, I used to use SpiderOak. I think right now, I'm pretty much married to kind of going with a BitTorrent sync to a specific box in the house
and spread it all over the place.
Until I figure out something a little more permanent. I'm kind of in between right now.
Part of my backup strategy is the fact that I got copies of stuff everywhere. That
exactly.
is, I mean, it's not a great backup strategy, but it is part of it.
Yeah, it saved my bacon the other day. I actually accidentally deleted my music folder.
What?
Yeah, I accidentally. Thank God, though, I had a BitTorrent sync over to my tablet.
So did you catch it before it synced the deletes? Or?
I sure did.
Oh my gosh, are you hustling like a fool over to your tablet?
Here's the funny part, is that BitTorrent sync hadn't been running for some reason. So I went ahead and just grabbed the SD card out of my tablet, put it in my computer, just dropped them all back, created a new sync. Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
I totally lucked out on that one.
I like Daredevilin's approach where he says, I just swap out hard drives.
Yeah.
That's a way to go, too.
That.
Yeah, that's another way to go.
That's not a bad idea.
There you go.
It's simple. It works for me. I just have one for video, another for music, and get done with it.
Yeah,
I always want something automatic.
Yeah, I want something automatic. So that's why BitTorrent sync keeps my constant syncing going on.
Yeah.
But then Deja Dupe does my once-a-week backup.
See, because the BitTorrent sync isn't really a backup because it could have synced the delete action.
That's right. It could have synced the delete.
You got
action.
lucky.
I got real lucky.
Yeah.
I got real lucky.
There's two things that BitTorrent Sync has going for you in your favor. One, unless you actually manually set it differently, there is a delay, a fairly significant one.
Yep.
And the second thing is the fact that unless you decide to turn this off in your folder preferences, it will actually keep a archive of what you just
you get the revision. Yeah, that's true.
Well, you get the revision. That's true.
Isn't that what that is? Isn't that what, it's like a revision copy and you can restore
I've never explored it. I was just like, it took up too much space.
In Deja Dupe it is. In BitTorrent Sync, though, it's going to just completely
sync
whatever you've got.
It does.
Now, where I lucked out is that it wasn't running on my tablet.
Right.
So it wasn't running on my tablet right then.
Yeah.
It was running on my computer, but it was not running on my tablet, so I was able to just copy it.
See, here's how I use BitTorrent Sync, is I have to have machines that have write access, but the majority of my machines are using the read-only key.
Yeah.
So that way, I never delete on the remote end, really, almost ever.
Well, I have no reason to either because, I mean, it's basically I'm just playing back the music. I'm not
exactly.
putting more
For
on
me,
there.
It's like clips and stuff.
Yeah.
And that, like, I don't ever need to delete. And then when I do need to delete them, I'm usually sitting at my desk doing, like, show prep and where I clean things up anyways, and then
you can go to that machine physically. And
it's kind of I just do that as a little security thing.
Yeah.
Anybody in the Mumble Room want to chime in on a backup solution they're particularly proud of before we move to our next topic?
I'm still a big fan of rsync and cron scripts, man.
Yeah.
I tried Obnam recently, and Attic, and I found that they were slow and pretty inefficient. Although the dedupe functionality in Obnam was pretty good, but it took forever. It was really slow.
Cookie Sprite, that's exactly what I'm doing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and rsync actually saved my bacon.
Oh, rsync's amazing tool, and there's a lot of pre-made scripts you can kind of take and then adjust to work the way you need if you don't want to write it from scratch.
It saved my bacon.
But it's so easy to write from scratch. I mean,
it is.
And just cron tab, and then you never have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and the thing that's important to me is I understand every single thing that's happening.
Exactly.
With BT Sync, I install the software and I just kind of have to hope that it's working.
The magic works.
I can see that.
Yeah. The thing I like about rsync too is you can do the dry run, so you can kind of just get an idea of what's going to happen. So is this going to be a huge massive file transfer? Is this going to be a quick thing? And of course, it also
are all my files going to get deleted?
Yeah.
Surprise.
And the other thing is you can throw. Sometimes these systems, like you'll lose the right date or time or last modified, and rsync's really good about it.
Wimpy's got an interesting solution.
Yeah, go ahead, Wimpy.
Well, like most of you, I'm using our BitSync to move my data around the place, so on my various workstations and what have you. But for backups, I use our snapshot, which gives you point-in-time recovery.
Yes, our snapshot.
So
yeah, Deja Dupe does the same. It's just got, in my opinion, just a little prettier.
Yeah, our snapshot I think we've mentioned on the show before, but I think it's been a long time since we gave it a plug.
Yeah.
So I use our snapshot on OpenMediaVault.
Oh, we might get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I'll explain how I do that a bit later if you like.
Yeah, that's a good tease. I like that. All right.
That's an rsync front end, I believe, right?
It is, yeah.
It sits on top of it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, cool.
Okay, so we got a follow-up on a couple of other things we need to get to, another email I want to, and a Chrome extension that will actually make YouTube suck less. You're not going to believe this Chrome extension and what it can do. It's incredible. So before we get to that, I want to stop and I want to thank our next sponsor on the Unplugged show, and that is the awesome folks over at Ting. Go to linux.ting.com. linux.ting.com right now. Won't you go there, because you'll get $25 off your first device. If you've already got a Ting device, well, then they'll give you a $25 credit towards your account. And Ting is super awesome. In fact, Kyra is in studio today to tell us about how Ting rates work.
Ting keeps rates simple. We don't make you pick a plan. Instead, you just use your phone as you normally would. How much you use determines how much you pay each month. You can have as many devices as you want on one account. That's good, because when you use more, you pay less per minute, message, or megabyte of data. Your usage, plus $6 per active device on your account, plus taxes, is your monthly bill. Simple. That's what we mean when we say mobile. That makes sense.
You go to linux.ting.com to get started. They got a lot of different devices here. Feature phones ranging from well under $100, like $60 here, all the way up to the latest, like the Nexus 5, all of the latest Galaxy lines, the iPhone lines. They got it all over there at linux.ting.com. Yeah, you do. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? Speaking of which, if you want, you can play a little bit with my L. You want to play with my L?
I'll take a look at your L.
Yeah, check out how long it's been running on battery. You tell the folks how long. You go if you can find it.
Okay.
And see if you can tell the folks. When you go over to linux.ting.com too, you'll see their savings calculator. You go in there, you plug in your current usage of what you pay on your current cell phone bill, and see how much you'd save with Ting. Since Ting's only charging you for what you actually use, that gives you a ton of flexibility. And if you're savvy and you know when to make a Wi-Fi call and things like that, you would be astounded at the savings. I now have 3 phones on my Ting account, and I'm still paying $100 less a month than I was for one line on my previous provider. It's kind of amazing. And what's cool about Ting is they're great with however you want to use them. If you want to use them extensively as a phone, you can. If you want to use it mostly as a wireless ISP, you can. And they have no hold customer service. So if you ever get stuck, you call them at 1-855-TING-FTW, and a real person answers the phone. linux.ting.com. All right, so what's the battery life on that Android L phone there?
Battery life, you've got 4 days left at 44%.
And does it say how long it's been running on battery?
I couldn't find.
Well, you go up on the chart if you're on the chart there, and I'll give you the date. I think it's since the.
It says the 5th.
Yeah, the 5th. Yeah, so I haven't plugged it in since the 5th.
That's impressive.
That's crazy.
Extends it that long.
Yeah, you know what it is? There's 2 things. So it's Android L.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Second thing is I don't make a lot of calls.
Right.
So there's 3 things.
Yeah.
And the third thing. This is the biggest, I believe, is that I don't have it signed into my Google account.
Oh.
So how many days has that been on battery? That Nexus 5?
Well, let's see. Since the 5th, and today is the 9th?
So there
8th.
you go. So there you go. And it's got how many days left?
It's got
4 days? Is that what you said?
Left. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I seriously think it's because I don't log into my Google account, and it's on Android L. Otherwise, it's just a standard Nexus 5. And what's crazy, you put Sailfish on this, and or Ubuntu Touch, and you'll blow through it in like 2 hours.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah. So there's a lot. This was so awesome about Ting is I'm rocking the Nexus 5. Yeah. I own this outright. I only pay for my usage, and I can put my OS on there, and it's Sailfish, Ubuntu Touch, Firefox. It just jumps on the Ting network and works.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Linux.ting.com. Go help change up the mobile industry by switching to Ting. Make the rest of the industry take note of what Ting is trying to do by voting with your wallet. Linux.ting.com. And maybe grab yourself a Nexus 5 and then try out the L beta.
That's right.
I'm kind of impressed.
Yeah, I just seeing that, I'm impressed too.
Yeah, I mean, you got a Nexus 5. How long does your battery last right now?
Let's see. I also sync to Google, so
yeah.
That's a huge thing. Just kind of going in. Let me take a look.
See, I'm thinking I'll have to sign it up with my Google account and then see.
I'm on KitKat, and I have 79% remaining. I charged it just this morning. I've got 4 hours, 46 minutes, and 7 seconds on since I last charged it.
And he's got 4 days left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see how long I have left.
That's crazy.
That is huge, right?
That is astonishing.
That's a huge.
Is that enough to drag you back to Android then?
Maybe. We'll see. Oh,
battery life is like the killer feature as far as I'm concerned.
Good news. Good news. Look at this. Oh, look at this. Our Apple videos, our keynote videos, already been pulled off of YouTube. These are actually usable
Seriously?
features.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go. That was the moment right there. Right when they're showing the ladies' boobs. Right when they're showing the ladies' boobs, they're pulled down our Tech Talk Today episode. What a bunch of jerks.
Fail.
Negative in the freedom dimension.
Seriously, that has been a bad week. I have 1, 2, 3 marks just from this week.
How do you put up with it?
I sometimes I just don't even pay attention. I'm not looking forward to it.
It's not like the appeals process is easy, right? I mean,
no.
The appeals process is
it's fruitless, is what it is.
It is. It is
arcane.
And in fact,
bureaucracy.
you can even put your account in jeopardy if you try to dispute something that turns out to be legitimate. Then your account can actually be shut down.
Yeah.
Screw that.
So Elroy wrote in with our next email to help us all cope with YouTube a little more. I think maybe all of you will want to go grab this. So Elroy writes and he says, I've just become aware of the most important, fantabulous extension for Chrome that has ever graced the face of this earth. It's called herpderp for YouTube, which significantly improves YouTube comments by replacing them with random herps and derps. I'm certain in some way that Matt must have been involved with this great piece of work. It seems inspired. One user explains it thusly. In the beginning, God created the internets, and the internets were without form and filled with chaos. Trolls and idiots spread upon the face of the deep discord with their fire, and rage as their fuel. Thusly, the Tanner, son of Ganner, and son of Godin, who fought during the legendary battle, not known as the Flames of Boxy, and his beacon of hope, shined upon the wretched world. And Tanner said, let there be derp! And there was herpderp. And Tanner saw the derp, and the derp was good. No comment even remotely remarkable was ever missed since that fateful day. You can find it in the Google Play Store. He included a shortened URL. He says, please spread the word of this great extension. So there you go, herpderp for YouTube.
Herpderp. I love it.
Not exactly Linux related, but I think Linux users can probably all say we've suffered a little bit from YouTube comments. So I've already installed it in my Chrome.
Yeah.
There you go. See, they have
awesome.
I like the before and then the derped. So they have the before and then the derped.
Yeah. It just says herpderp, herper.
Here's the first review.
Awesome.
You, sir, are a genius. Second review, oh, thank God. Third review, this is fabulous.
Fourth review better be herpaderp derp derp.
Yeah, really.
I know a couple of YouTubers would love this, actually. That's great.
Martin writes, oh my God, how did I live without this extension? Anna writes, goodbye to dumb bitches on YouTube.
Exactly. That's it right there.
So
holy crap, it works.
Yeah, did you already install it?
This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
Bubba says, herpa, derpa. And wow, that's awesome.
So there you go.
Suddenly I can actually read this stuff. This is great.
I figured to make it much more palatable. So even though they're pulling down my videos, at least I'll have a good time when I go there to read it. So I thought that was good.
If you click on each comment, it becomes English again. So if you want to read it, you still can.
Oh, that's actually cool.
So that's awesome. Because now I don't care what anyone says. This is great.
Rikai points out that you could pair this sort of like a good wine and cheese. You could pair this with the well-known cloud to butt extension that turns all references of cloud into the word butt. Have you guys seen this?
Oh, that's genius.
Because actually, it bit me the other week because we did my cloud exposed, and then somebody sent in a screenshot with the cloud to butt extension where it said my butt exposed. Tech Talk Today, episode 51. So there's a negative side to it as a content creator.
Yeah,
could
be a little awkward.
Mm-hmm.
That's just brilliant.
So you match up the herpderp for YouTube and the my butt extension, and your browser is a much better place, I think. Who needs net neutrality, right? You just do this.
If they made one for Reddit, we'd be set.
Yeah. Okay, we got our last email that came in from EB. He says, proud papa, my 10 and 13-year-old boys took to a Chromebook I gave them. I hit up Google and put the thing in a developer mode, installed Crouton, and got Ubuntu installed, and they did it all by themselves. As a parent, I feel like my work on this world is now done. EB.
Good dad.
Right?
Good game.
Yeah, that was good. I have the C720 sitting right there. I'm going to that's going to become Dylan's school computer. Same thing. I think I'm going to leave. My thought is I'll leave the Chrome OS install for Dad. So like if I just need to grab his machine and look something up, I'll have Chrome OS.
Yeah.
And then when he needs to use it, I'll have it in Elementary OS.
Yep. That's nice. Way to do it.
I don't know about Elementary OS though.
Well, yeah. Well,
Am I making a mistake? Should
Ubuntu, sugar on a stick,
Arch.
I love both.
He's looking at what it does, not what it runs. So I think.
Yeah, I know he is. But I'm thinking. But I would rather have my son run Arch.
Yeah, well.
Nice. I see where you're going.
Yeah, that's all.
That's a dream you can only hope for.
And here come all the Arch fanboys again.
Right. No.
Yeah.
So anyways, congrats to EB. And, that was one of the things that we did this episode on Sunday about the Chromebook. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is a phenomenon. And one of the other common comments we got is, Chromebook is great. I can't wait till those $200 Windows laptops come out, like we've talked about before too. It's great for Linux. It's funny though, because at first it took me a while to sort of recognize it. At first I thought the Chromebook was kind of a threat, and the Chrome boxes. But now that you can replace the frickin' BIOS entirely, when you pull off that Chrome OS BIOS and you put on a custom flashed version of, because it's just an open source.
That's right.
It is a full-fledged laptop at that point.
And you can always flash the Chrome OS BIOS.
Yes, I did actually. Yeah. I did it as a. Go ahead.
I've been super happy with my C720 for 6 months running Ubuntu. I keep it as a backup in my backpack next to my Ultra Pro, which runs Arch. And then when battery life drains, because the battery life is insane on the Chromebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wimpy, you were going to make a comment about compatibility?
Well, yeah, the thing is that because the Chromebooks are running Linux, in the main, they're extremely Linux compatible.
Totally.
Far more so than some of the mainstream PCs that are preloaded with Windows might be. Right.
Well, and plus also because you can put CBIOS on there, and then you can have an open source BIOS. I mean, it really is. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder.
Yeah.
If,
I mean, Stallman should be happy.
Yeah. I wonder if these things are getting close to being Stallman approved. I'm sure there must be like stuff for the Wi-Fi or something that's still probably negative in the freedom dimension. But.
Yeah. In his opinion, if anything does allow something that is negative in the freedom dimension, it's
and the value of this is negative.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, let's take a break before we get into our first major topic of the day. I want to talk about Linux Academy. Go to linuxacademy.com. Right now, go check them out, linuxacademy.com. And if you go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged, you can still take advantage of the Summer of Learning 33% discount. I don't know if you can still technically... Is it still the summer? Can we still call it that?
I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's summer-like.
Okay, all right. I wanted to make sure it was still summer-like because I don't want you guys not to get the Summer of Learning discount. It is too darn important. There are few things in life that are as important as your education as your mind, as Ben Folds 5 would tell us. Thinking about your mind. Sitting there floating in space. Go over to linuxacademy.com/unplugged. They've got step-by-step video courses, downloadable comprehensive study guides, and you'll love this. If you're in somewhere in the course material, you're getting your learning on like a fool. You're just like sucking it up like a sponge, getting all kinds of smart over at Linux Academy, and you get to a point, and guess what? In the course material, you need to build a server. Well, this was what really sucks about Linux Academy. You got to stop what you're doing. You got to go build a server. Take a couple of days. You got to get the OS. You got to order the parts. You got to get a monitor and a keyboard and mouse. You got to install your...
Not with them.
No. Oh, wait. That's right. You don't have to do any of that because they spin up a server for you on the fly.
Weird.
Right as you need it, boom, as the courseware requires that the server is spun up on the back end. That's part of the service. Doesn't matter if it's AWS. Doesn't matter if it's a Linux box. Doesn't matter, you guys. They have all of it there because they are a bunch of Linux experts and educational enthusiasts who've built this system for you because it's from the community for the community. They're all about it. They recognize the issues that exist with all of the educational platforms out there, the shortcomings, the problems that they have trying to reach out to Linux enthusiasts, and they've solved a lot of that. Almost all of it, because the only thing that's remaining is the content, and they are working at an unbelievable pace. So many courses are over there right now. They could take you years to work through all of it, and they're not done. They're adding more stuff every single week. I just had a little chat with one of the guys that runs Linux Academy, and I got just a hint of what's coming. It's going to set them so far ahead of anyone else in the industry for the next several years. I mean, it has never been a better time to go over to Linux Academy and just double down on yourself. You can take the step-by-step courseware offline with you, too. So that way you can educate yourself when you're in the car. If you're in the shower, like Skooky Sprite, you can listen in the shower while you listen to Linux Academy. These kinds, it's flexible. They also give you the tool set you need so that way you can attack it in a way that is actually manageable, that doesn't induce anxiety. Because for me, one of the problems is I start to get these things that weigh over me, and then it bothers me that I'm not getting it done. I start to feel like I'm not accomplishing everything I want. I start to feel kind of bad about that. Linux Academy gives me the tool set where I can attack things as I have the time, where I can really easily conceptualize how long something's going to take, what's going to be involved in that process, and what it's going to require for me to commit to do it. And that gives me the opportunity to succeed, which just keeps me going. It keeps me going back for more and more all the time. And if I ever kind of have a lull, they have a really great community support system there that helps me out. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go check them out. Get the Summer of Learning discount, and you'll see all of the new content they have. I have a list right here I could read off to you. It's really amazing. And I think you're going to be impressed. And I'll tell you, if you go there right now, there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff you can start with. It's never been a better time. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Save 33% and start learning right now. linuxacademy.com/unplugged.
And they have a Nagios tutorial now up there, which is pretty cool. It's like a 5-part thing, which was a big deal for me when I signed up with them forever ago.
That's a great.
I was like,
yep.
Give me Nagios, because I've never done it. I've never set up Nagios, and they have the whole thing up there now.
And
awesome.
you know, we were talking about backups. They have a whole thing on backing up with rsync, so you can go take that course. So that's
really?
Yeah. So that's another good example. If you want to set up NFS. You know, if you've been wanting to do NFS file sharing, you're ready to get off Samba because you're just talking Linux to Linux, and you want to take advantage of the speed of NFS, they got a whole course on NFS.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, when you walk away from that course, you will have implemented an NFS server, so you can. It's a one-to-one translatable skill set.
And it's great for stuff that like you maybe have done like once or twice for work, like 4 years ago or whatever, and now you need to remember how to do it for your home or whatever. That's what I use it for.
Yep. And let's be honest, too, a lot of us are self-taught, and there's just little areas that I have found that even when I go back and take the most basic stuff, like I did Linux, I think it's called Linux A+. I can't even remember anymore. Is that even a thing, Linux A+? It was a really basic rudimentary course I took years ago.
I think Linux Plus, I think.
Oh, yeah, Linux Plus. Yeah, thank you.
Linux Plus, yeah. It's been a while.
I actually found it, you know what? It showed me a couple different ways I could consider doing things. Yeah. Like, I actually kind of, like, it picked my game up a little bit, even though it was a really intro course. This was a long time ago, but I find it to be, and that is true across the whole board, too.
Yeah. A+ is one of those certifications where you can use a mouse and keyboard.
That's very true. That is very true. I want to talk a little bit about systemd, and this is, and then we'll do our OpenMediaVault review. Okay, so let's do the systemd thing first because I think this might be a little quicker. We've been following systemd since the beginning, and we now are in a phase where a lot of adoption has occurred, but there's just an immense amount of pushback.
Oh yeah.
And I've been trying to get a sense of where is legitimate complaints, where do those fall, and then what is just like clicker baiting to get traffic to drive clicks for your ads. So I've been sort of doing some digging and trying to get my head around all of this. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I certainly have noticed that the vast majority of anti-systemd articles are coming from two places, and they're coming at an unbelievable fever pitch rate. And it makes it seem like it's just people after people after people talking about this, when in reality, I see two people talking about this, and then the rest of the internet shitting their pants every time they talk about it, and then, of course, it drives traffic and gets everybody talking about it.
Click, click, click.
Let's start with my favorite, Paul Valencia, over at Infoworld.com. Paul Valencia recently wrote, "You have Windows in my Linux." He says the schism over systemd could lead to a separation of desktop and server distros, or a mass exodus of Linux server admins leaving to FreeBSD. Okay, that's just one of his many. And what's great is you can go look at Paul Valencia's post, and you can just read through his anti-systemd crap. Then another, okay, so that's Infoworld.com. Then number two, IT World, Jim Lynch.
Oh, yeah.
This is the other guy. And in fact, these two guys cite each other as examples to support their arguments.
Right.
So this one got a ton of traction over the weekend when I was prepping for last. Funny how this story didn't make it into the Linux Action Show. So here's the headline. Systemd rampages through the Linux community like Godzilla through Tokyo.
Oh my God!
Oh, brother.
Yeah.
Clickbait.
And I've got a good little collection in the show notes of their more recent stuff, and I just went back 2 weeks. Here's another headline. Yeah. It's time to split Linux in two. Here's another one. These are just the same guys over and over again, right? Writing these kinds of stuff. And here's another story, all in their thread, all their timeline. It's here's another one where he suggested. Here's the other thing I love. This is so great. When Paul self-references his own previous articles to support his new article. I love that one.
That's a fallacy right there.
Yeah, this thing I wrote a while ago, in this case last week, still totes legit, so let's just reference that.
My insane hyperbolic screed from last week, designed to... Oh, God.
Right, and so here's a couple of things that we can probably agree on, right? The arguments against systemd, it violates the Unix philosophy, right?
Hear that all the time.
It's one big thing doing a lot of things. It's too much stuff crammed into PID 1.
Yeah.
What's another common systemd? The logging, right? The binary log.
It's bad for servers.
This is the new one,
which is insane.
This is the new one. It's bad for servers.
Yeah.
How is it bad for servers?
The concept came for the requirements of modern day servers. That's why
exactly.
it got
it was designed for servers.
So the idea that Paul Valencia argues that what we need to do is we need to split Linux into two, and you have systemd for the desktop side, and then the server distros don't use systemd.
Totally madness.
Madness. Absolute craziness. It is absolute craziness. And I wonder, like, at some point, do we just ignore these people and move on? And does it actually dilute the, you guys know who Alex Jones is?
Yes.
Right? Everybody's like, well, it's a lot of people think
Your buddy.
Yeah. Alex, should I you think I should play the mustaches clip?
I think so.
All right, I'll play it. Nah, you won't be able to hear the mustaches, so you just have to wait a second.
Oh, no worries.
What's driving me crazy is that photo right there. Zoom in on that. It's one of those cops in a black uniform with a mustache. And you just look like an absolute clown freak that works for murdering terrorists that jack our food and water. I think you're a big joke. Oh, you got a mustache. I'll just worship you. Oh, you got a mustache. It's okay. Nothing against mustaches.
So my point about Alex Jones is, like, some people think that Alex Jones is such an out there conspiracy theorist that he makes all conspiracy theorists look bad. So are guys like Paul Valencia and Jim Lynch, they are just so far out there with systemd that they make all systemd haters look bad?
I just want to say they've been caught.
Yeah.
They've been caught.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, that's a good point right there.
I mean, if you look at it, they've figured out a way to drive traffic to IT World and InfoWorld, and that's just to keep writing about systemd.
Yep.
And then the Linux drones just keep clicking it.
That's right, and that's because it's controversial. And so they just drive up the controversy.
But there
really
create
isn't
that much controversy anymore. Not since Debian, adopted it. I mean, where's the controversy anymore?
They're making it.
Well,
exactly.
And is this argument that it's not okay? Let's take the it's not very Unix-like argument.
Yeah.
Is this a valid argument? A. And B, does it matter? So I think it's a valid argument only in the sense that nothing else implements some of the things that systemd does, and so because there's nothing else, it's somewhat of a valid argument.
Well, but it's the most valid argument only in the sense that, like, it's the one that comes closest to being factual, accurate, and sense-making. But it's not that great of an argument in of itself. I mean, yeah, sure, you could you could control your mouse with, scripting that you've done, by yourself. But no, systemd does it for you. I don't know. It makes me angry.
What do you think, Heavens?
No, it's the agglomeration of tasks that are on systemd that were separate to a large degree. That's the argument there.
Now, Heavens, I know Heavens said he has a counter to that argument.
Now, as the importance of the argument, I would say that one of the things we were trying to achieve is POSIX compliance, and this POSIX concept was approached because it will allow us to have portable applications across operating systems. That does require that other distros and other operating systems do apply POSIX standards, which they all have variations. And to a large degree, the applications still don't work, so the benefits are not there.
Right. That would be so that's the technical, like, Unix compatible definition.
Yeah.
Then you have the philosophical, lots of small tools do one thing really well, working together in concert to make the overall system.
Well, and the fallacy with that is that systemd is a collection of tools. It is not one single tool.
Exactly. Well, but it's a repackaging. But it's repackaging all of those single tools into one tool, which is the philosophical disagreement in terms of, like, the Unix side. Yeah.
Yeah, systemd is a re-implementation of some of those tools that have existed for a while, and I think what people push as the falsehood, which is that it's all crammed into this one process called systemd that happens to be PID 1 as well, which is crap.
Right. It's not all one binary.
I still want to hear what Heaven's Revenge has to say.
Well, I do believe it is very Unixy. A lot of people really do still misunderstand what systemd is. It is one thing. It's an abstract scheduler. The user space uses to schedule things. That's its purpose. That's its only job. Everything else has been built around that, which uses that functionality. That's why it's so applicable to so many things, and that's why the systemd project, the umbrella project, has grown to encompass so many different things, because it's an abstract
because it's useful
scheduler.
for it. Yeah, absolutely.
So many things just need simple scheduling. We can't use a CPU scheduler.
Yep.
We need a user space scheduling system. That's what it is. It's just an IPC mechanism for communication and a scheduler. That's it. It is Unixy. It's just one simple thing. It's just so applicable. So many things can use it.
Okay, Wimpy, why don't you jump in?
Okay, well, I want to be clear. I'm not a systemd hater by any means. I think it's a great advancement for Linux, but I'm going to be devil's advocate here. One area where systemd is squarely not in the Unix philosophy is that you can't pipe the utilities together. So that was really, the crux of all of the Unix utilities, that everything is text in, text out, and they can be joined together with pipes to make a new utility by joining them.
And that's simple. That's simple.
But I don't care.
Well, there is something to it, though.
Exactly.
It gives you the ability to build such an amazingly powerful suite of tools together, but at the same time, it seems like maybe we've moved from that to a different need now. Like we're modernizing in a sense, and it's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily good. I think it's
called innovation. I mean,
right.
deal with it.
Well,
I mean,
it's called it's called moving the platform forward to the demands of the future and not just to the demands of the past.
Totally.
Yeah,
and I think the other thing that I recoil at when I hear people talk about systemd is a lot of times people will say, well, systemd creates lock-in. And one common example they will cite is GNOME now requires lognd. Lognd is part of systemd. So in extents, to get later versions of GNOME, you must have systemd because you need lognd.
Not true.
Well, and I'm about to say, is that just because of like the binary logs? I mean, what the
No,
hell?
it's because
how's that system lock-in?
It's because lognd implements a set of functionalities that no other project is currently implementing.
Yeah,
but
it's called progress.
Well, the thing is at each level there is an API available. Somebody could write a replacement, a lognd that doesn't require systemd. That is technically possible.
Yes.
And this week we have seen, and this has actually happened 5 weeks ago, but this week I saw the physical 100% truth. It's in the code. There is code out there right now called systembsd. And systembsd is a reimplementation of systemd APIs for freaking BSD. So you can use things like lognd and timed on BSD that are supposed to be systemd calls. This is a physical, literal demonstration of the portability right here. They are moving this functionality to a completely different operating system.
That's right.
So the idea that we couldn't re-implement lognd functionality in Gentoo is bullshit.
Exactly.
So we're moving it to BSD now.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's also emblematic of how efficacious, the entire, the whole systemd project has become, like Heavens and Wimpy were saying.
Yeah, and that's one thing Wimpy was also he wanted to talk about systemd shims, I believe.
Oh, go ahead, Wimpy.
Well, this is what Chris has just touched on. The GSOC, one of the GSOC students for OpenBSD this year has created those dbus APIs to replace some of the systemd layers so that things like GNOME 3 can run. But this is what Canonical have been doing for a little while now. They've got their own systemd shim that provides lognd. And that's how you work around that issue at the moment, and why they're able to move their GNOME 3 components that they rely on.
Isn't it, in a sense, almost a good thing, because then it just gives us a common thing for us to write against?
Exactly. Of course it's a good thing.
Gets rid of the fragmentation.
IPC.
Yeah.
I mean, good ideas succeed and bad ideas fail. That's one of the greatest parts about Linux.
When we talk about it at a factual level like this, it seems clear. I mean, it seems, yes, there's some disadvantages, like we've mentioned, especially when it comes to binary logs. As an old sysadmin, I'll be honest, that's hard for me.
That's a fallacy. We can shoot that one down now. If you install a syslog daemon on a systemd-enabled machine, journald will push everything to syslog.
And that's not the only one. There's a couple of ways. There's a couple of ways to pull it off.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I was about to say, like, I've heard of like 5 different methods to get your old logging system back. More or less running on top of systemd. So blah. That's garbage right there.
All right. I mean, we could keep going on, We could keep talking about it, but I just thought with this System BSD shim thing, this was particularly interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Narrowing it down to InfoWorld and IT World and seeing how they're playing off each other to generate a lot of controversy, which it's interesting the way it works, too, is because the things they talk about there is then sort of leak their way into the communications of the regular community, and all of a sudden people take it as their own opinions and their own stances and start arguing these points that are being sort of just ginned up for traffic.
Yeah.
Which is what's scary about it, because these guys are considered to be, thought leaders or whatever in terms of IT or whatever pseudo IT information you want to, blah. And so this just creates just endless controversy that's actually damaging to forward progress. I think it's damaging.
Also, I just got to say to both Jim and Paul, if they happen to listen to this show, you guys have been caught. You're done.
You've been busted.
Busted.
I almost, I don't know. I almost wonder if do they do it intentionally? Who knows? We can't prescribe their motivations.
Well, no, we can't prescribe their motivations. We can't prescribe their
speak.
motivations, but at the same time, we can look at it and say these are clickbaity articles.
They are that. Yeah. I think so.
Especially with the headlines. That's the only explanation I can think of.
And also, just to them, we have an open Mumble room, so if either one of those gentlemen would like to join us and talk about it.
That's right.
They're absolutely welcome. We would love that.
If they want to call us out on our calling them out, absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, I can speak intelligently on just a piece of it really quickly, in that if you've ever seen the South Park episode where they explain how Family Guy comes up with their show titles, writing in tech is a lot like that. Our editors give us a big tank full of stuff, and then we pick words and make sentences out of them, and then we pick an article topic. That's essentially how it works. These guys know, yes, this is absolutely link bait. There's no debating this. I would encourage them to come on here and tell another guy that writes for a living that this isn't link bait.
Right, yeah,
that's right. That's right.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm paid to do it too, but I try and come up with a little more positive stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
I think you do a good job of that.
Well, and that's why I think it's so damaging. I mean, I'm speaking from 5 years of working as a print journalist. This is your only two arguments for self-defense for this are either I am technically illiterate or I am a tool.
Well, it seems like peeing in your own pool too.
Yeah.
Like you're eventually poisoning the well that you draw your content from.
That's right.
Exactly.
Generally speaking, a lot of times you got editors though that are like, especially if you've got like someone above you that's like saying, if you don't hit this target, guess what? You're collecting unemployment.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
And it's a short-term thing, to them. It's like, I got to make money for this month.
Let's pour the turpentine into the aquifer, see what happens.
Exactly.
If I just have a few drinks, take a few pills, I can get through this article. I'll be all right.
I can swallow it. I can make it through.
But that doesn't excuse it. It creates a causality. This is why this is happening. Yeah.
You know what? We'd all be a lot better if they just go right about the iWatch.
There we go.
I totally agree. That's a great point.
They should go be information reporters for terrorists.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
Okay. All right. We gotta talk about something more positive. This is getting bad. You could tell it's been a long broadcast day. It's been a long day.
We're getting punchy.
Yeah. So why don't we talk? Let's talk about DNF here in a second. Fedora 21 coming down the pipe. We just last week talked about restructuring from the ground up how you deploy software on Linux using Btrfs subvolumes. I mean, this is not that. The DNF is not that, but it is still a new tool that's coming to manage software, and producer Eric has had a little hands-on time with it, so we're going to talk about that in a second. First, I'll thank DigitalOcean. Head over to DigitalOcean.com right now and go get yourself your own server backed by SSDs connected to Tier 1 bandwidth. Oh, you don't know what DigitalOcean is? My friend, let me tell you. DigitalOcean is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way to spin up a cloud server. Users can create a cloud server in less than 55 seconds. And pricing plans start only $5 a month, which will get you 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, and this is the best part, 1 terabyte of transfer just right there. So you've got a CPU that backs it, you've got 20 gigabytes of SSD for incredible I/O density, and you got it connected to Tier 1 bandwidth with a terabyte of transfer. And DigitalOcean has data center locations all over the place. They've got them in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, brand new one in London, which is great. And on top of all of that, they manage it all with their incredible intuitive control panel, which power users can replicate on a larger scale with DigitalOcean's awesome straightforward API. And they just got a little more awesome with the introduction of CoreOS. This is an amazing opportunity for you to go over there and try it out. And if you use our promo code, because we've got a promo code for you, Unplugged September, $10 credit. Like, in the past, when a server-grade operating system like this came out that was truly something new, that you can tell by the industry response is already a success. It's already on the path to success. Think about how awesome it is that if you go over to DigitalOcean.com, if you use the promo code UnpluggedSeptember, you could create a CoreOS cluster and play with one of the most advanced server operating systems on the planet, connected to Tier 1 bandwidth on top of SSD drives, using their super fast control panel for free for 2 months, using the promo code UnpluggedSeptember.
It's huge.
I mean, when have we ever been in this position for technology at this scale that has been this democratized, that we have this level of access to? It is amazing to see this happen. Well, and it's all backed by Linux on top of KVM.
This is something that we saw at OSCON. People were getting fired up about CoreOS, and now it's available to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought about playing with CoreOS, and it's not the kind of thing you're going to throw in VirtualBox.
No.
That's not the right place for that. And this is such an opportunity. I mean, of course, they've got all kinds of great distros you can choose from. CoreOS has just been added. It's new. They're going to be working with CoreOS, and it's going to be it's a game changer. It is totally a game. DigitalOcean itself is a game changer.
Absolutely.
Matched with a bunch of game-changing technology powered by the open source technology stack that they write all that on top of. Now matching that up, and they didn't just go get a CoreOS image. They worked with the CoreOS project to make this happen, because there's some management stuff they needed in there. There's some changes they need to make, and they want to work directly with CoreOS to make sure that your images are backed by the CoreOS development team. Well, it's awesome.
And that's the beauty about doing that, is that they can create their own custom image for what they need to give you guys a custom image.
And then you manage the droplets with their great interface.
That's right.
DigitalOcean.com, and use the promo code UnpluggedSeptember when you check out. You'll get that $10 credit. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring Linux Unplugged. Okay, Eric, so let's talk about a package manager, DNF, which literally stands for nothing, right?
Yep. It has no acronym properties.
So whatsoever. Yum was what? Yellow update. Was it manager or
Yellow Dog
updates? I can't remember now.
Something manager, but yeah.
Yellow Dog update manager modified. Yellow Dog updater modified is what Yum stood for.
Yeah, that's right. And DNF was created by the Fedora project and also Red Hat sponsoring to take what is Yum and make it better.
I don't see. At first, I didn't quite understand, because I didn't really see I didn't see a big benefit to DNF. So for example, I would be using DNF to update my packages, to install a new version of something, or to install Chromium or something like that, right? I would now call on the DNF command instead of Yum command.
Correct. Now here's what it is. It's a drop-in replacement for Yum that is going to actually take on the name of Yum come Fedora 22.
And you actually literally mean drop-in, you were playing with symlinks and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. I took and I renamed my Yum binary to Yum-Legacy, and then I made a symlink for DNF to Yum.
Yeah.
And now anytime anything in my system calls on the Yum command, it's actually calling on DNF.
Now, why did you do that?
I did that just to experiment to see if it would work, and it does. It's flawless. In fact, it runs faster than Yum.
DNF is still using RPM packages on the back end. It's managing dependency resolution just like Yum does. It's using repo files like Yum does.
It's using the exact same file structure that Yum has.
Yeah.
The difference is that where Yum pulls down each package individually, when package gets done, it will actually pull down several packages simultaneously, therefore using your bandwidth to the best of its ability, and also using your system processes to the best of their ability.
And they've recently introduced Delta RPM support.
Correct. They introduced Delta RPM support by default. Before that, they had it just as an experimental setting you could make. Now it's in there by default.
And I guess it looks like they have a DNF package history. Remember, you could do some rollback stuff. I don't know if that's in
right.
there yet. Is that in there?
It's in there, but that's one of those things that still has to be enabled by the config file.
So, doesn't sound like it's a huge change, but it kind of sounds like it's a direction to it's we're starting here and we're going to move this forward a little bit.
Right. It's actually a rewrite. WikiLeaks was just asking if it's completely new or if it's modified Yum. It's actually a complete rewrite from the ground up.
And I think this is going to be across Red Hat Enterprise, Fedora, and CentOS will all be using DNF.
Correct. By the time those versions release in the future, I mean, we're talking, the first one's going to be Fedora 22, and then the next one is going to be, you're going to see CentOS and Red Hat whatever version they decide to release that in, probably like a 7.2, 7.3, or something like that.
I was always kind of surprised that we didn't see any other RPM distros adopt Yum. I wonder if we'll see DNF adopted.
I mean, I see other RPM distros like
SUSE's got Zipper.
SUSE's got Zip, actually.
Zip.
Yeah. And Mandriva.
Mandrake has RPMI.
Mandrake, yeah, exactly.
Or Mandriva, yeah. Mandriva.
They have their own thing. I have yet to experiment with that because I don't know, it just seems like an irrelevant.
URPMI was, I don't know if that's what they still use, but back in the day when I was a Mandrake user, that was almost RPM good enough for me. I could almost, Matt, did you ever play with Mandrake's URPMI, I think was what it was called?
No, I didn't. I never spent as much time with Mandrake as I should have. I kind of toyed around with it a little bit. And then, of course, the RPM stigma hit me initially, and I just ran away almost immediately.
I seem to remember,
I remember that. I don't remember it.
I seem to remember URPMI made it easy to add repos. It had like a lot of apt-like features.
Yeah. I always pronounced it URPMI. I think they still use it.
Okay. Anybody in the Mumble Room had a chance to play with DNF or the new Fedora release with any thoughts? I'm looking at you, Kernel Linux, and I'm thinking you're a CentOS guy.
I am a CentOS guy. Unfortunately, I've been out of town for the last week.
Are you when these kind of things though come down the pipe? Do you load up Fedora and think to yourself, okay, I'm going to learn how this is going to be for my servers in the future? Or is that like a thing that you Red Hat guys do, or how does that work?
That used to be exactly what I did. In fact, so much to the point that I would teach myself new features of Red Hat on Fedora. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that anymore. Like the projects have split so decidedly in two different ways. There's almost no similarity between the two.
That's interesting.
So I looked at, and in fact, when I was at LinuxCon, I actually learned that I should stop looking at CentOS to see what Red Hat's like, because apparently those two are going to become very different. So
that's a little confusing.
That is very confusing.
For real.
Yeah, but so apparently even now I haven't had a chance to confirm this, but apparently even with 7, there are differences between Red Hat Enterprise and CentOS. They're no longer just recompiled binaries.
That
really
makes me unhappy.
Yeah, that's not good because
I'm holding out judgment until I find out exactly what the long-term play. Because let's say they take CentOS and make it into an enterprise desktop operating system. I'm okay with that as long as projects like, what's another one, Scientific Linux still exist. As long as it's something I can go to where I can build binaries on some sort of a cost-free platform that has access to repos. As long as I can do that,
I think that's going to be Fedora. I think Fedora.cloud and Fedora.server are going to
Fedora Cloud,
they're
Fedora
going
Server.
nuts.
Whatever they name it is fine with me as long as I have something.
And that's one thing that's coming out, is that the next Fedora 21 is going to be the first one that goes by that Fedora Next. Moniker.
Boy, that's going to be a transition that is going to take a while to play out. And meanwhile, Red Hat Enterprise Linux will be standing still. And so at some point, Red Hat Enterprise Linux will have to catch up to all this Fedora Next stuff. And how do they make that transition? Because Fedora Next is a totally different beast. Well, you can have a real minimal Fedora Next, and they're even talking about a Fedora Next version that's essentially rolling in a way.
Well, they have Rawhide, but I mean, if you look at it, they're going to have to deal with the server, the workstation, cloud, and whatever that fourth one is.
I'm not talking about Rawhide.
But
I'm talking about Rail.
No, I'm saying I'm saying one of the things they're talking about in Red Hat is making it so that way. I don't think they're going to be there yet, but I think they are designing it with the intention of sort of like CoreOS, where you isolate out the server applications and the base OS is rolling.
Yeah, and Fedora's already doing that. Rail's probably just going to take on what they're doing.
Yeah.
And have a workstation. That's one thing Rail does not have, is they don't have a workstation.
Fedora could have Red Hat Enterprise.workstation.
That's right, Red Hat Enterprise Workstation.
It's going to be CentOS.
Well, I mean, if you look at way SUSE does it, they have workstation and server.
Yeah.
And so why doesn't Red Hat have something like that?
I wouldn't say because SUSE does something, Red Hat should do it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I just think it's surprising that they don't have something like that
Noah
already.
mentioned, when he was down at LinuxCon, it's like, come on, give me a distro that I can put on the desktops that matches the servers, and we'll see what they do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking for, there's some Fedora haters in the chat room, but I actually think Fedora is starting to become a really interesting project again.
Yeah. Well, honestly,
I agree.
Honestly, beginning of July, I could have been included with one of those Fedora haters. I decided to go ahead and try it.
You've been running the 21 beta?
No, I've been trying 20.
Oh, 20.
I've just been running the solid 20.
What are you, a masochist?
Yeah,
What's the matter?
know,
No.
right?
I mean, come on, man.
But I did it because I wanted to get familiar with the system, and I wanted to learn how they do it and what they.
Well,
what
you
they
see
do,
cool
why they do
stuff
what
coming
they
out of the project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been saying this for a little while now. You're seeing most of the innovation is coming from the Fedora project.
Like ALIGX.
Yep.
Wait, what?
What?
Wait, no.
Well,
random assortment of letters.
Yeah.
Don't you guys remember ALIGLX versus XGL, and those were the two backend compositors, and then you read Comp is Fusion on top of that? Come on, it's not that old of a reference.
Jeez. But what I'm saying is that Red Hat and through Fedora is pushing most of the innovation in Linux that I'm seeing, other than Canonical with their thing.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh. No, unless Popey's here, we pretend like Canonical doesn't do anything.
Okay, so anyways, that's some British company, I don't know. But
I kid.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I see where you.
Yeah, they're pushing
they're pushing things forward, and you wanted to be there. You wanted to see
I wanted
it.
to see what it was like, and sadly, I think that as far as they push it, doesn't run as well on my hardware for some reason. I've got a little bit more experimentation to do, but...
So maybe back to a different distro for you?
Perhaps Arch or Ubuntu. I don't know.
Have you considered trying 21 just to see what runs better?
I might.
You've got this weird UI lag thing that happens from time to time.
Yeah.
That is really strange. That would drive me crazy.
It's like... No, and I can watch it in like HTOP or something, or even Top, and it's like I get this random spike from GNOME Shell, the GNOME Shell process, and it shoots up to like 13% and back down. And then 30% back down.
And that's GNOME 3.12, right?
That's GNOME 3.12. Stable. Yeah. I don't know why it's doing that. It just is.
Have you played it all with Corora? Which is sort of a respin of Fedora with some...
I have not. All it really does is include RPM Fusion and a few
RPM
other things.
Fusion and like codecs and like Flash. And
all of which come from RPM
binary
Fusion.
drivers and yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, it just makes it a little bit easier to get going.
It does. It definitely is a time saver. I have yet to actually try it, but it's not a bad idea. Just try it around. Try it out.
I'm looking forward to it. We'll have a review of Fedora 21 whenever they eventually ship it. They've just delayed it again.
Yeah.
So
it's been 2 weeks delayed so far, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know. All right, Matt. Well, I think that was everything we were going to cover in today's episode. We'll have episode 330 of the Linux Action Show on Sunday.
Wow.
So that'll be a big show. Yeah.
Huge.
That's a lot of shows.
That's show after show after show.
So if you'd like to get a hold of us, we'd love to get your feedback over to jupiterbroadcasting.com. Click the contact link and choose Linux Unplugged from the drop-down, or maybe even better, be part of the in-crowd. linuxactionshow.reddit.com. linuxactionshow.reddit.com is a great place for comments, feedback. What were you saying?
OpenMediaVault.
Oh, God, yeah. We were going to do an OpenMediaVault review. Yeah. All right. Jeez. Nice. We better do that before we go. I can't... These shows
wow.
these have been going long, these shows.
Oh, it's felt like a marathon today.
It
has been a marathon.
Long, we can do it next week.
No. We said we'd do it. We can do it, right? I mean, we should do it. We should probably get it done today. So let's start with OpenMediaVault. Now, the OpenMediaVault it's something that we've had many requests to review on the show, and it's something I haven't gotten around to because I'll be honest, I'm pretty happy with my FreeNAS setup. FreeNAS setup. But I'd like to hear, well, maybe you guys can convert me away. Yeah. So, Wimpy, do you want to start on the, because I know you gave it a kick the tires. I'm not sure who else in the Mumble Room today got it a shot, but Wimpy, I'd love to hear what your thoughts were with it and maybe what your use case was.
Right, well, I run OpenMediaVault at home. I've got 2 OpenMediaVault servers. I've got one which is the current stable version, which is 0.5. And I've got what will be the 1.0 release, which is coming up soon, running on the other box. And primarily I'm using that for NFS and Samba sharing and Plex media serving and torrenting ISO images and just about everything you can imagine. There's a plugin for everything.
Nice.
So the 0.5 version sits on top of Debian Squeeze base OS. And what will be the 1.0 release sits on a Debian Wheezy base. So you can install from an ISO image. It's super simple. It's pre-seeded, so you have the ISO in. It tells you it's going to trash all your disks, which it does. And then you end up with an install, and you can boot into the web UI. You manage everything from the web UI. And it does, if you've ever used any of the...
Very FreeNAS looking.
Yeah, well, the guy that started OpenMediaVault actually departed from the FreeNAS project.
Interesting.
So he was one of the original FreeNAS developers. And they had some sort of disagreement. I'm not quite sure what the details were, but the guy that's doing this is a refugee from FreeNAS.
Refugee.
Refugee. Wow.
What was the file system?
Well, you've got a choice. So when you actually create your disks, it's got Linux software RAID on there. I'm talking about the stable version at the moment. There's a plugin for LVM, and then you can choose any of the file systems with the exception of ButterFS, which is not available in the stable version because in Squeeze that's really, really experimental.
Yeah.
I hear talk, I don't know how far along it is, that they're working on a plugin for the 1.0 release to natively support ButterFS without the use of LVM and software RAID, so that you could go completely to ButterFS. But I don't know if that's definitely happening or how far along it is, but I've seen several references to it.
So
there has been some talk about ZFS as well, but I can't quite tell whether they're serious about that or not.
So when you so disk management, adding additional storage, sort of like if you wanted to go Drobo on this thing and just sort of add disks over time, sounds like I'm kind of falling back on traditional disk management utilities in Linux to add capacity and grow volumes and things like that.
Only if you want to. So, for example, I think you've talked about SnapRAID in one of the shows gone some while ago, and also Greyhole. So you can also use SnapRAID and Greyhole if you want to, instead of traditional RAID solutions.
Okay, that's not bad. I like that.
I mean, like I said, there's plugins for everything. There's some boring stuff.
And the plugins would be things like I would assume
Plex.
things like Plex, backup, stuff like that.
Well, let's look what I've got at the moment. So at the moment I've got, hang on a sec, let's bring it all up.
And I'm sure sync tools too, right? I'm sure that's another.
Yeah, so I've got BitSync installed on there. So when you install the plugin, it installs BitSync as a service, as a daemon, and then has a UI that then integrates into the web UI of the OpenMediaVault thing, and you can put your shared secrets in there and all that kind of stuff.
Actually, I would say the UI looks a little nicer than FreeNAS.
It definitely looks cleaner.
Yeah.
I've got a plugin for Calibre. I've got one.
Oh, really?
For Potato. Cool. Another one for Cups.
Oh, wow.
Another one which is just a generic downloader, which I use for grabbing torrents and web links and stuff like that, and YouTube videos. It's got web front end for navigating your file system. Like I said, if you want it, it's got Greyhole, which is an alternative storage pool, file system manager. Headphones. Mini DLNA I use for streaming to amps and stuff that only speak DLNA. And then there's a MySQL plugin, an Nginx plugin. You'll like this one. There's OwnCloud plugin.
Oh, cool.
Wow, goodness.
OpenVPN.
Sold.
Yeah, this is sounding really good.
This is sounding really, really good.
Roundcube mail server.
Wow.
And then RSnapshot, which I touched on earlier, and then SabNZB and Sickbeard, and all of these plugins, they don't just install a bit of software, but they actually have a front end GUI that integrates into the OpenMediaVault web UI.
This is sounding killer.
To take a box and dedicate it to this.
Yeah.
So it runs through the browser. So this sounds awesome.
And then it looks like the browser management software also will go out and update the plugins too. So it
does, yeah.
Has an update manager.
It's like a front end to apt basically. So there's an update manager. There's another plugin here. I've used it a bit. There's one for VirtualBox, so you can create virtual machines on there. Transmission plugins. VDR for DVB and DVBS and DVB-T.
What's it using for a base?
It's all Debian.
Wow.
So this is one of the reasons I like it, because although I've got the Cups plugin installed, I've got, I think Google call them a classic printer, which basically means not a cloud print enabled printer. But because it's all just Debian underneath, I've been able to, someone's written a native Linux implementation of the Cloud Print API, which sits on top of Cups. So I've been able to install that on my OpenMediaVault box to turn my classic printer into a cloud print printer.
Cool.
So now we can print
Nice.
from our Android phones and tablets.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
because it's straight up Debian,
Wow, I was
I
just
can do
looking for-
everything on the box, that I would want to do.
I was just looking for a solution for that.
Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing.
So is that
Scratch-
also kind of how
scratch
you
an
got Plex running on it?
Plex is just a plugin for
Oh,
OpenMediaVault.
this is so cool.
Yeah.
Solved.
Wow.
Done.
So
Yeah.
the standard plugins, there's maybe about a dozen. There's then a website. It's omv-extras.org,
Oh, I'm going
and
there
this
right
is
now.
where the community publish their plugins, and this is where you get all the good stuff from.
omv-extras.org. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm looking at this. This is great.
And you can see they've
Wow.
got stable testing and unstable repositories.
WordPress.
Uh-huh.
Oh, this is pretty awesome. Actually,
Brilliant.
There's Couch Potato. That's where they're
See,
right there.
can you see why I keep banging on about it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Wow.
Don't stop either.
Yeah, this is
Share, WordPress,
Mumble
or
server if you want it.
a Mumble server. Wow.
Whoa.
mini DLNA. Woo.
I can't believe that Roundcube. I mean, Roundcube. Wow, you run your mail server on.
Me
Yeah.
likey.
Yeah, that is really
This
cool.
is amazing.
Makes me want to put on a droplet too for some of the mail features.
I know, right?
Oh, one here,
Oh,
one here.
that just opened up another droplet right now. It's gonna happen.
If you want to put it on a droplet, I've got some instructions here about how to install a Debian system and then overlay.
Oh,
I'll paste it in the IRC now.
cool. I'll grab that. So you could
nice.
you could convert
So
you can convert an existing Debian install.
You can convert a base Debian Wheezy into an OpenMediaVault install.
Wow.
Score.
And they also have ISO images, I imagine.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. They have ISO images for 0.5.
Logging
and,
into the demo right now.
Yeah.
What I suggest,
They have a
what I suggest
WordPress
is create a VirtualBox machine with one disk that you allocate for the OS, and then add like 5 virtual disks for your RAID. And when you install it onto the OS disk, and then you can actually go in and use all of the disk management tools and actually experiment with LVMs and RAID or Snap RAID or whatever. And once you've figured out how to do it, in a VM, then you can go and reproduce it on real hardware.
Yeah. Boy.
Wow.
I was kind of expecting OpenMediaVault to be a bit of a stinker because I was like,
Yeah.
how are you going to compete with FreeNAS? But it sounds like it's a pretty big contender.
Big time.
The only difference for me with FreeNAS would be, of course, ZFS support. But
ZFS.
I wonder if you could just install that.
I don't know. I know that in the forum some people have been talking about it, and so I can't quite tell whether the lead developer is anti-ZFS because of his falling out. with
Oh,
FreeNAS,
that's a good
Right,
one.
yeah, maybe he got burned.
Whether he just doesn't want to take on supporting it under Linux. But I think at the moment, very much it's sort of the traditional tools and then the plugins for Snap RAID and Greyhole, which give you those,
Right,
just
that
add
might do it.
disks
Yeah.
at random.
Yeah, I think that would do
Yeah.
it.
Greyhole and Snap RAID are pretty good.
Could be a
I'm doing
FreeNAS
it
killer.
with-
JB
Yeah,
Live.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say this looks deadly.
JB Live 3 in the chat room says that he installed OpenMediaVault on a Debian install with LXDE, and then he used that to migrate from Windows Home Server when Microsoft
Nice.
pulled the plug
Yep.
on that.
Someone saying that there is a ZFS plugin for OpenMediaVault 1. I can't see that on my system, but apparently it's there.
Okay, cool.
Well, Rikai has a link in the chat room right now. So.
I will grab that too. So I will put links to converting a Debian install to OpenMediaVault. I'll put a link to ZFS on OpenMediaVault. So we'll have all of that. Is there anything else we should talk about on OpenMediaVault before we run?
Performance is stellar. So
Oh.
I've got really, really humble hardware, and I'm using it as a Plex server, and it does real-time HD transcoding down to my
Wonder
rotor
how it-
boxes.
Wonder how it would run on my netbook server thingy. I have set
What
up
sort
here.
of processor have you got in it?
It's an Atom N270.
Adam?
It's an old
Okay,
one.
that's probably better than what. Hang on, let me just find out. I've got something terrible.
Serious?
Wow.
Wow. What do you got? A couple gigs of RAM on it? You're
I've
probably right.
got AMD Turion
Oh.
2 Neo.
So
So
Yeah.
so mine is more powerful.
So
Chris was all cringing.
well, the other thing I was gonna. So what about it's good and bad. Like on FreeNAS, when you install a plugin, they're sandbox. They're isolated in a sense. But on OpenMediaVault, when you install Plex, is it able to see all of your file shares and because to me, one of the disadvantages of the way FreeNAS does it is then I have to do like this funky way to mount my data into that plugin or into that jail.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
Right. But if OpenMediaVault could just see the file system, that would actually be better for things like Plex or BitTorrent Sync.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's how it works. So in the UI, you have a section for physical disks, which is just all your drives. From there, depending on how you want to set it up, you use either LVM or RAID or Snap RAID or whatever, and then you end up with some file systems, and those are the things that you actually format with your file system of choice. And from there, using the UI, when you're in Plex, and it embeds the Plex UI in the tool, you can point it at anything that the OS can see. But by default, it wants to use one of the media shares, as they're so called. So I create a file system. On there, I create a shared folder called music, and when I go to Plex, I say add the media music, and off it goes. But you could point it at anything on the system if you wanted to.
Okay,
interesting.
There's cool. I don't even see a tool that I would want that is not in the plugins page that you referenced, the OMV extras. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And someone's just posted in the chat room, and I found it. In the 1.0 version that I'm running, you have to enable the ZFS repository, and now the plugin shows up.
Okay, yeah, Rick, I just posted more up-to-date instructions as well.
That's awesome. Putting links to all this stuff in the show notes for folks that are listening on the downloads. You guys can grab that. Wimpy, thanks for the review. Anybody else in the Mumble Room have any OpenMediaVault experience to chime in with before we run? Is that? I mean, that's a good cover. We got great coverage from Wimpy, so yeah. I'm going to Wimpy. I'm going to be checking it out. So thank you very much for
You're welcome.
Filling us in on that. And keep us posted as you discover new things or try new things with it. Let us know how it goes. You mind being our OpenMediaVault correspondent?
That's absolutely fine.
Okay, good.
Along with Ubuntu Mate,
March. Just add it to the list. Wimpy.
Yeah,
it's good.
just a few.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Okay, so that will bring us to the end of today's episode. Don't forget we do Linux Unplugged live like today. Boy, was today live.
Wow.
Go over to jblive.tv. We usually start at 2 p.m. Pacific, but jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar has that in your local time. And if you don't join us for next Tuesday, at least show up on Sunday for the big show. Linux Action Show Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, jblive.tv. Matt, that's going to wrap us up. Have a great week. And
you too.
I'll see you on Sunday for episode 330. That's crazy. Eric, thank you for joining us in studio. It was great.
Anytime.
And thanks for joining me earlier today. If you guys want to watch our coverage of the iThing event, it'll be posted on Jupiter Broadcasting. It might not be on YouTube because they're pulling our crap down like crazy. But you can hear Eric's commentary and insights as well as mine in the Mumble Room from today's event if you'd like to catch that in Tech Talk Today, episode 55. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of Linux Unplugged. We'll see you right back here next Tuesday.
I learned about OpenMediaVault.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy cool.
That was way cooler than I was expecting.
I'm going to have to...
I've only covered like half the plugins as well. I mean, there's just so much to it, and there's a bunch built into the stock system.
I mean, just reading that page is absolutely nuts. There's nothing I could think of that I would want from, network attached storage.
They're the community contributed ones. There's a whole heap of useful stuff built in. So I've got the UPS monitoring on mine.
Yeah,
as
I
well.
saw that too. That's cool.
Hey, Wimpy, I forgot to ask this. It would be something that I could stick into a virtual machine and just play with for a while before I actually install it on real metal?
When I first got started with it, I did it all on VirtualBox. I created five drives, one for the OS, 4 for pretend disks, and I raided them and stuff in OpenMediaVault.